So in this video, I just wanted to go over some quick math for Albedo and what kind of numbers you think you can see, and basically get to his overall DPS in the end. So basically, what we're looking at here is a mostly defensive build with a little bit of consideration into utilizing his burst, his ultimate, because it would be a little bit of a waste if you can go pure defense and you could theoretically use this spreadsheet to figure out how that would look. But using mostly defense and then also utilizing as much of your ultimate would be good. You could also do a reverse of that, which is mostly focusing on the burst damage and then doing a little bit of a little bit of defense, elemental skill like the E on top of that as support for your main DPS. So if we look into this spreadsheet, the numbers that we mostly care about are the red ones. So here, this is the base attack and the base defense. So this is based off of his level. So this can go a little bit higher. It's based off of level 80 Albedo and weapon, which I can't spell right, level 80. So this is about a 4-star weapon. I had these two switched around, but basically this is his base attack. This is the character's base defense at level 80. And this is a weapon, a 4-star weapon. Typically, sword is about 449 attack. If you have a 5-star sword, it'll be higher. If you take it to level 90, it will be higher. So this is the base attack. I think all percentages multiply off of the base attack. I haven't studied the math too much. This is just kind of rough estimates off of what I know. Here we can see an artifact build. So I'm thinking 2 defense runes. I think 1 attack percent rune. You can either have attack percent or an energy recharge. So I would not use the energy recharge if you want to get more out of your burst, because what you can do is use a sword with energy recharge, or if you're using a sword with attack percent, you can put an energy recharge rune on here, so that you're getting your burst. Ideally, you want enough energy recharge to get the burst off every 12 seconds because that's its duration, cooldown duration. So after you use it, you should have recharged it fully after 12 seconds. Um, Flat HP, I think this is a maxed out ruin. I've never actually maxed one out yet. I'm not that high, like a 5-star one. But this is according to the resources I found. And then Feather flat attack is going to be 230. This is going to get added. It doesn't scale, kind of at the end of the formula. So here we have the elemental skill at level 6. So this is using your talent materials, I think. Yeah, so if you level it up to level 6, the multiplier on it is 200%, and then at level 14 it's 300%. So I'm just later in the calculations using those as 2 and 3. Um, and this box here shows basically from his elemental skill, if we want to see, so if your total defense is about 2,500, you should see on the screen a 5,000 tick damage every time you hit it and proc the blossom. If your total defense is about 3,000 and your skill's at level 14, then you should be seeing about 9,000. So these are like big numbers. 3,000 defense, you would need insane substats and basically pure defense build. So that's probably the best you can see there. So these are the best numbers you can see on the screen, not counting his burst at all. So now if we go into here, we can see some calculations for the um, elemental skill and the elemental burst damage outputs. So we're taking 2 considerations, the level 6 and level 14. Level 6 is pretty easy to get to usually, and then all the way up to level 14 is very difficult. That's going to take you a long time, or if you have a lot of resources, you can do that. Basically though, we're looking at the base defense. We don't get that from a sword. And then there's going to be defense bonuses. So defense bonuses, I think, are calculated basically, we're considering the defense percents, and I guess flat would be in the, yeah, Flat would be added on later. I didn't include any flat because we don't have a flat artifact for defense, and I'm not counting any substats in this. So this is basically just guaranteed main stats and what we can get from the art weapons. Yeah, because the weapon will give you one substat. There is no um, one-handed sword that has defense as a substat except one 3-star sword. And you can take my word for that. You can look it up. As of right now, they might add one later. Um, but we can't tack on even more defense like that. So basically, um, we're taking the base defense, we're multiplying it by the two defense percent. So these are fully maxed out um, ruins. The main stat is about 58% defense. And then what I'm including here is there's a artifact set which gives you 30% extra defense. It's slipping my mind. I'm just gonna put it into the description. Um, but it's a 4-star set, and so that because you want to max out your percentages, you wouldn't want to use that set for um, these defenses because the 4-stars can only go up to 16, and so your final percentages would be actually lower. So what you'd want to use it for, ideally, is the flat HP and the flat attack, because those are not as important. HP doesn't matter literally for Albedo, and then the attack is gonna be like pretty good. The flat isn't gonna make such a big difference at a high level in the end. But we're considering that we're getting this 30% extra defense from that set. So again, you can take this out if you'd want to redo some of the calculations. So then we get a total defense. I think this is what you should see on the screen, roughly speaking. Um, and 19, uh, around 2000, that seems realistic. I think people can get that. Now we're going to just use the skill multiplier because the skill multiplier is based off of the total defense, and we get an output damage of about 4000 here. And if we've leveled up the skill to 14, assuming that all the same artifacts, no substats, no defensive substats, we're getting about 6,000 almost. Um, and this is basically per tick. So if you pop him, then you switch into your main DPS, then for every crystallized reaction that occurs every 2 seconds, you're going to see a number something like this, considering these stats. Now, we are also want to think about utilizing his burst damage because that has a great multiplier, and basically why not? You have iframes, it's just pretty decent overall. So we're going to consider his base attack. This could be much better, but we're considering just kind of a normal build. Um, yeah, so his base attack is going to be based off of Albedo's base attack and the weapon base attack. This can go a little bit higher, but it's going to be something around um, this 600 and whatever. Now we're going to consider the attack bonus. Attack bonus is going to come from substats, which we're not considering, or the main ruin stat or the substat of the weapon. So here we're saying we've got one attack percent ruin, which is about 46% attack, and we are multiplying that by the base attack, and that gives about 300 attack bonus. Then we consider the flat attack. You could add up all of your flat substats, the like random 12s and whatever the heck you get, and then you add your feather, which we're assuming is a max out 5-star one, because we know we can guarantee that, which is about 230. Now we add up all of these, we get the total attack. This is the number I think you should see on the screen usually, and then when you're looking at like your character, and then we're considering the skill multipliers. I went a little bit more into decimals here, but it doesn't really matter. I'm considering the level 15 one. This one, yeah, is going to be hard to get, but basically this one's pretty easy to get. The 5 times multiplier by getting your skill up to level 6. Um, and then there's blossom multipliers. So these blossom multipliers, um, so you use your normal skill. It does one large out damage output, and then it drops 7 fatal blossoms or whatever. And these have a lower damage multiplier, but there's 7 of them. So these will actually probably do more than this one in this case because 7 times 1 is about 7, and then we're going to add that up. So basically, if we look here, we've got the total attack being multiplied by the first skill multiplier. This is your initial damage, and then basically it's going to be the total attack times the blossom multiplier times 7 of them. And we're getting an output damage of this. You're not going to see this number because what you're going to see is you're going to see this first number. So if we take this out, you're going to see 6,000, 200 or whatever, right? And then you're going to see basically on all of the blossoms individually about 1,000. Okay, so here I'm just gonna go fix this now. Times 7. Yeah, but the total amount of damage is going to be about 14 or 1,500. Is that right? 15,000. Sorry, yeah, 15,000. Now, if you get this skill to level 15, the multipliers increase and you can get a total output of 25,000. So this is nice because you can look at some boss HPs, which I haven't done. You can look at a flower and say, okay, I know that by the time I do, basically when I do one alt, it's going to do 25k totally. This is assuming all of the fatal blossoms land. I think they're a little bit random sometimes, so you might not actually get all of this, but you will definitely get, as long as you don't miss, the first one. So you're going to get the initial hit damage. Now we're going to look at cumulative damage and convert it into total DPS um, to kind of see what we're getting here. Um, yeah. So basically, we're looking first at the duration. So when you drop your E, the Solar Isotoma or whatever, the elemental skill, it lasts 30 seconds. The burst, effectively, you can only do this once every 20 seconds. Now, you can proc the damage on the elemental skill once every 2 seconds. Now, we're going to assume you're not being perfect and you're sometimes missing this timing. You can get really good, I guess. And if you're doing things like dropping Fischl's Crow, I don't know the fire rate of Fischl's Crow. If it is every 2 seconds, then your efficiency is basically 100 because you don't even have to do it anything. I don't think Fischl's Crow lasts 30 seconds. It definitely doesn't. But at least for that time, every you're outputting damage every 2 seconds, so you know you're going to get that proc. Um, then we're going to, so basically we get efficiency here, and then we calculate the number of occurrences. It's 30 seconds. It happens every 2 seconds, which is why I'm dividing it by 2. So we basically have 15 seconds, and then we multiply by the efficiency, which gives us 12 occurrences. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, for the burst, we know that it goes off of cooldown every 12 seconds, assuming that we have enough energy recharge, which is why it's important to have some amount of it. Um, and again, this, I don't know if I made it clear before, but you want to use probably an energy recharge sword. That's the easiest way to guarantee it, and you're going to get like 50% or something once you have it very high, level 80. It's going to be pretty good. The Festering Desire from the event right now is probably the best sword. It's also going to add a elemental skill, I think, damage to it, and we're going to be able to max out that sword from the event. So that's literally the easiest free to play best sword in my opinion that you can give to him for sort of this build. Otherwise, any other energy recharge sword is good. Um, and then, the rest of them, there's no defense sword. There's a lot of attack swords. There's crit rate, crit damage. I don't think those are necessary for this build because you're not planning on critting a lot. Unless, of course, you go the other completely main DPS build and you're actually trying to crit a lot and you are, yeah, basically going for that extremely high burst damage. And that's completely fair, and honestly, that might do a lot more. In my opinion, though, we all have tons of defense runes. No, almost no one uses defense, so I'm sure we can find some very good defense percent runes. And those kind of like crit damage, crit rate builds are better saved for someone like a DPS character, if that makes sense. So, and again, your this is going to depend on your ruin set. There's the defense one that I can't remember the name of. That one's okay, but it's not a 5-star set, but it's really good because I think it's relatively cheap. You only have to power it up to level 16. You get that defense percent for basically free. Then there's stuff like Archaic Petra and Noblesse Oblige. You can look at those. Those are really good. We're gonna keep, I just want to finish these numbers here though. So basically, these are the occurrences. Um, one cycle is about like 30 seconds, so we're doing occurrences per cycle, which gives us zero point 0.4. So every second, about zero point 0.4 occurrences happen. With the burst, though, there's only one occurrence every 12 seconds. So we're dividing these two numbers and it's giving us 0.08. So that's happening much less often. It's more of like a stepwise function. Now, the output damage, this is just the numbers we got from these other two parts. It's about 3,800 and then 14,000. And basically, these are the output damages, but this one occurs much more often. So what we can see, this is the output damage at level 6, this is the output damage at level 14, and then we go and calculate the cumulative damage. So the cumulative damage at level 6 for the elemental burst, no, sorry, elemental skill, not burst, is going to be the number of occurrences per second times the output damage. And we're going to get a number like this. And then the elemental burst, because it occurs less often, the cumulative damage per second is only 12,000. So we can see with this build that we're getting more damage from his elemental skill than his elemental burst. Now, yeah, if we look at level 14, it's basically the same story. Now, what'll happen is if you go the other route, you can make this burst do much more damage. But what you're going to lose out on is this kind of passive damage that's happening while he doesn't need to be on the field, and basically your main DPS can be proccing all of this passive damage. If we look here, basically adding up the elemental and the burst damage, you're going to get this. I forgot also to mention, if you use your ultimate without your elemental skill, you're not going to get those 7 blossoms. So you always want to use it on top of that, but that shouldn't be too hard to factor in because it's cyclic, so the cycles may or may not overlap perfectly. But you should always just use your burst when you have your E on the field so that you get those 7 blossoms and you maximize that damage. Um, yeah, the total damage per second that you can output with this build are these numbers. These numbers mean nothing to me. I don't know. I guess it's a good thing to see. Next time I do another kind of calculation on a character like this, we can compare it to this. We can compare support. You can do this for visual and see how much damage per second you're outputting. You can look at a main DPS and you can see how much you're doing. The calculations get a lot harder with elemental reactions. And so there's a lot more considerations you can do. It's kind of a long story, but again, to reiterate, the most important numbers I think are the tick damage, which is 5,000, 9,000. This is probably like unrealistic. Complete 5,000 is realistic to get to. This is almost unrealistic. Completely defensive pure build, and your burst damage, basically this whole row, is gonna suck. Otherwise, you can see here we've got 4,000 not considering any substats. So if you can get those substats, I think it's very realistic to get at around level 6, 80 to about 5,000 damage ticks. And then otherwise, you can only take it upward from there by leveling up the skill and basically trying to get that defense just as high as possible. So that's how his defense scaling is. I think it would be nice if his elemental burst actually scaled off of defense too. It doesn't do that. So this is mostly based off of attack. So if you're going to go attack, then if you want your elemental burst to kind of benefit from that multiplier, you're going to need to go attack. Again, I don't really understand the calculations fully. This is just what I think, kind of how it works, just adding it up. And this numbers seem reasonable. I haven't done a lot of testing, um, so that's that. But also, we all need to remember that these are just numbers, and Albedo's real value, or his value, really lies in how you play him. Using his elevator with people like Klee or ranged units to get out of the range of melee enemies is insanely good, and you can't see that um, here at all in the numbers. And also, we're not considering how much basically damage input reduction you're getting from just picking up his little crystals and generating a shield. Also, when you generate a shield like that, I think now that Geo's been buffed, you get another nice little attack buff. So there's a lot of considerations. This is just, I wanted to give out little estimations of numbers that you can expect to see and kind of advice on like a easy main kind of balance build that utilizes Albedo mostly. I think this is a cheaper build. Obviously, if you go pure DPS and crit rate, crit damage, you can probably get more damage and a lot of stuff. What I just like is that we all have defense ruins that, we get defense and we're like, oh, that's such a bad substat, right? But if you can actually accumulate it on Albedo, you're gonna get these like massive ticks, um, along with your main DPS character. And if you can tick for 10,000, bro, you're literally just sitting there not doing anything, just attacking, and it's just, hitting them for 10,000. It's really big. Alright, if you like this video, like and subscribe, please, because, our goal right now is, get 5 subscribers. That'll be amazing. We got one yesterday, which I was happy about, and I'm gonna stop wasting your time and see you in the next video.